All right, we're at 7:03. I'm going to give it another minute or two while I send out a couple of quick shout outs here. See if I can catch up with a couple of our regulars.
Hey, this is Josh. I don't know why my screen is saying Galaxy S9, but I'm here.
What's your name?
This is Josh.
Oh, it's Josh. Okay, I just shot you a message. Okay. Let me go and change your name there. Yeah, it's probably picking up the name of your phone or something like that. Let me see who else did I want to get here. Quick, Joey. Usually joins us. All right. Well, we are at past 7:05. Let me just real quick check this one notification here. Okay, nothing that important. Go ahead and hide this. And get ready to get started. All right, where did I put this document now? Switched over computers in about the past week, and it's not remembering like recent documents and things like that. So now I have to go back and remember where some of those docs were. Bear with me, bear with me. Cool. I think I found the right one. All righty. Sorry for the delay in getting started. We are now about 7:07 in a couple of seconds here. My name's Scott Weldon with the South Carolina chapter of the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. I'm going to say welcome real quick, but we are going to start our every Wednesday cannabis conversation with our disclaimer, which is all of our meetings are an environment of education and awareness and are not an open market for the sale, purchase, or distribution of cannabis. We do not encourage or condone illegal behavior of any kind. So again, thank you. Thank you. I said the Wednesday cannabis conversation. I fibbed. This is our monthly membership meeting, our public meeting. Member, non-member. This is our monthly association meeting for our members and potential members. These happen every third Tuesday of the month, and we are on Tuesday, August 17th. Again, my name is Scott Weldon. I'm the executive director of South Carolina NORML, and welcome to everybody that's here on the call with me at the moment. I can't even see anything. I got documents in the way. And welcome to anybody who may be watching on our YouTube live stream. And also welcome to anybody who might be watching on YouTube as a recording later on. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, we ask that you go click the subscribe button. And also as a quick note, if you are watching live on our YouTube channel, we do not monitor the text, the comment section. But if you do have any comments, questions, or concerns, please leave them down below in the comment section. We will come back and visit them in about 24 hours or so after YouTube's done rendering the video. And at that point, we will do what we can to address your questions, comments, and concerns. All right, let's kind of get ready to get rolling here. Monthly meetings on our agenda. Generally, we start with what's going on federal level of legislation. As you all know, there's not a whole lot really active going on right now. Probably the most active thing right now is the House Appropriations Bill. That is, I guess being addressed at the House Appropriations Committee, federal level. See if I have that in front of me. I don't think this one's particularly the support safe banking. This is basically a House Appropriations. I'm not seeing in front of me here. Let me go. Now, I'm not going to dig into it too deep. It's not really what everybody's excited about. The one thing I do want to point out, though, with this House Appropriations Bill is one of the things we generally see in that is the rider for the Blumenauer-McClintock amendment. I think it's got 3 additional names added to it now. Basically, that is the amendment to prohibit the use of federal taxpayer dollars to enforce federal marijuana laws in states that have already legalized. My understanding on that is it's not in this House Appropriations Bill. Instead, it will be seeing its own floor vote, and it has passed successfully. I believe last time was with like 100%. I believe last time when this passed, it was with like the entirety of the Democratic legislatures and 25% of the Republican legislators in the House that voted to pass the Blumenauer-McClintock amendment. And again, I don't see the name of it in front of me, so I don't know all the other names attached to it offhand. The other thing that I heard brought up about the House bill, or this House Appropriations Bill, is the DC legislation rider. There's been discussion on legalization in DC. And again, because we're not in DC here, I don't follow it real close. I believe that rider is, bear with me. Okay, I see it here. The House Appropriations Bill also removed the anti-marijuana rider. And include banking protections. I found it, folks. I'm going to go ahead and give you the link here to the information I'm talking about on this House Appropriations Bill. Joey's telling me he's got no audio. Anybody else?
I got you loud and clear.
Josh, you got me. Joey, I know you logged off and logged back on. Can you hear me now? Sorry about the pause. I wanted to put a message to Joey that you and I can hear each other at the moment. Okay, hopefully you can address that. I'm gonna real quick try and ask him to unmute, see if we can hear him talk. And we're gonna go on. Let me go ahead. I just went ahead and put that link in there, but I'm gonna share the screen with you real quick. Let's go ahead and just share my browser. Okay. All right, sorry I didn't have this in front of me a few minutes ago, folks. You know how I am. Okay, so this is for the fiscal year 2022, which I believe the current fiscal year ends September 31st. 30th, 30 days, half September. Anyway, I believe that is the end of the fiscal year. And so, of course, general government spending bill is now in the House. It includes provisions relating to the District of Columbia's budget. The House Appropriations Committee admitted an existing provision that prevents Washington, D.C. from implementing an adult use cannabis consumer marketplace. So that has been omitted at the federal level. It affects DC, doesn't necessarily going to affect us here or the appropriations bill, but you know, it is notable. The bill additionally included language that would create limited protections for banking institutions that provide services to state licensed marijuana businesses. So those are, again, I shared the link for that one. Those are what's going on federal level right now. That's the big notes I had on it, was really the DC rider has been removed from it. And also the Blumenauer McClintock. Does this even talk about that? No, this is pretty much focused on the DC rider. Of course, DC has its own problem, and it mentions it right here. The only reason district is unable to defy the government's marijuana prohibition policies in the same way that other states have is because it lacks statehood and is under the direct oversight from Congress. And so that's where they need an act of Congress to decriminalize and or commercialize, as it's saying up here, recreational marijuana in DC, to legalize. Excuse me. All right. Any questions or comments on the House Appropriations Bill and what it means to, you know, marijuana legislation at this point? Like I say, those are the only two things that I can really point out. And the Blumenauer McClintock, I'm going to find the name of that real quick. Norton, is that right? Norton Lee, there we go. All right. Of course, it's in the normal blog again. So here we're talking about, again, the upcoming congressional House vote on marijuana policy. This was just released a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, they're expecting their own House vote on the Blumenauer McClintock Norton Lee amendment. So that is why that is not in the House Appropriations bill. All right, let me back out of there real quick. Don't need the House Appropriations bill open. Again, I'm going to point you here to the normal.org page. Go to where it says take action. I've preloaded it on my other page here. What we really want to talk about tonight, or what everybody wants to talk about tonight, is what's going on with not so much the House MORE Act, but what was the MORE Act in the Senate and is now known as the, come on, it's in here, Cannabis. Is it in here? No, it's not even listed in here. All right, let me go find it real quick. Why did I have it open back here? All right, I had it open over here. I don't think I had the next actual Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act. Gosh, well, I don't know why I'm having such a hard time remembering that. I've known it for over half a year now as a Booker, Wyden, Schumer pending legislation. And now I want to point out, if you guys are all viewing this on your screen with the share, you'll notice down here in the lower right corner, this says discussion draft. This is not yet legislation pending for any type of movement forward. This is just a rough draft. And if you go to NORML's website and to the take action and then to the what do you think, let me go back and highlight that one. Here, a proposal to end the decriminalization. This is what I want right here. What do you think about the Schumer, Booker, Wyden proposal? See, that's what it calls it over here. If you click out on this, again, it's going to take you right to that page that we were talking about a moment ago. I'll close it there, reopen it here. And then from here, if you click this draft summary, you will get to this page and you will be at the 30-page summary of this legislation, which I believe we went through on one of our cannabis conversations a couple of weeks ago. I do suggest you go through it, read over it. But that's what we're going to be discussing next for the next few minutes here. I don't want to dwell on this too long. I want to get into our other parts of our agenda for tonight. Again, this is kind of what is big in the news and what we can do something about at the moment. So the ticket is to go to normal.org, take action. From there, click on what do you think about the Schumer, Booker, Wyden proposal. Once you're there, you will see, again, those two links I showed, or the first link I showed you, which is the 30-page draft. The second link over is the full text, which, if I remember correctly, is 167 pages, or right about in that area. So if you really like to read that kind of stuff, click on the full text link, and then kind of give me your synopsis on it if you wouldn't mind. But yeah, we've gone over the draft summary. And again, I want to highlight, this is a draft. This has not been officially proposed as legislation yet. And as you look at this draft, let me jump back to this real quick. It's broken out pretty expressly, I guess is the way to describe it. You go through the table of contents and you'll have your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 basic chapters or categories. And as you go through, they're highlighted very prominently as you get into each one. And what I want to point out is, and so it was pointed out to me as a matter of fact earlier today, the big orange boxes. And if you go through and you look at the big orange boxes, it really tells you what the government's asking for your input on here. The sponsoring office requests comments on the new definition of cannabis, quote unquote, including comments on, and it goes through the bullet list here, the appropriate way to measure the potency of cannabis and cannabis products, the interaction between the definition of cannabis and the definition of hemp, and so on and so forth. Next one, the sponsoring office also requests comments on agency responsibilities because they're planning on this appointing responsibilities to certain, as we often call the alphabet soup agencies. And here would be the FDA, the TTB, and the ATF. So we know the Food and Drug Administration is the FDA. We know the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. The TTB. Why do I not know what the TTB is? The Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau. Who knew? I just closed the page I wanted to keep open. There we go. So those are some of those alphabet soups. Let me go back to where we were. And so that is the losing the closing accidentally closing page, maybe lose my train of thought. The big orange boxes is what you really want to kind of look at when you're going through the briefing. Again, it asks you very specifically, what do you think on this, that, and it breaks it out for you. And that way, when you go to the take action page and the what do you think the page here, which again is normal.org/act/what do you think about the Schumer Booker Wyden proposal, you can have a pretty good indication of what the answers are that they're hoping to get answers to. And we've broken it down at National into, first off, 3 very similar questions with similar type answers, but a 4th one also, all using radio buttons. How important is it to you that expungement be included in the final package? How important is it to you that the federal government and discriminatory metabolic THC pre-employment and random drug testing? And how important is it is interstate commerce to you? Those are the ones all have very similar answers. And then there's one other with radio buttons, who should handle most of the regulations, broken down to either the state, the federal government, or a shared jurisdiction similar to how alcohol is handled. And then there are 3 boxes here on this particular page for putting in your opinion on what the legislation should fight for, or what we should fight for in this legislation, fight against in this legislation, and also an opportunity for any other comments. Get another quick sip here as I ramble. Again, there are some highlighted draft focus areas listed right up here. Here we talked a little bit about the reparative justice components, protections for cannabis consumers under law, including protections for public benefits and home cultivation, product labeling and safety, among other similar regulations, to be principally regulated by the states with federal oversight and administration by the FDA and the TTB. That open for myself. TTB.gov. Tax and Trade Bureau. Sorry, need that open for my own reference. And those are really the big things going on at federal level right now. There is I'll go back to the take action page real quick. The House version of the MORE Act, very similar to the way it was last session. I think they pretty much just reintroduced it for the new session, kept the same name, and it's really, it reminds me a little bit about what's going on here in South Carolina's politics with the medical marijuana legislation, where the House and the Senate have both submitted companion bills. Here it's the Compassionate Care Act. It's the Senate bill, S-150, that's actually seeing action and movement. And the House bill, the one that we like slightly better because it does include the smoking and sale of flower, is languishing and not doing anything. And what I heard was basically the House members are just saying, we're just going to wait and see what happens with the Senate bill. And so they don't really, my understanding here at the state level, there's no intention of the House bill necessarily moving forward. It was, I think the purpose of the co-sponsorship is more to show, some support in the House for the legislation, but without actually without having to make the House move the legislation for themselves. That's my take on it. All right, let me go ahead and turn off this share for a moment and let me kind of get back to, we talked about appropriations, talked about the House and Senate versions of the new descheduling bill. There's a couple of other things out on that take action page you can click on. Tell Biden to stick to his word and decriminalize. Actually to expunge marijuana records, and he hasn't shown very good support since he's been elected into office. As a matter of fact, I just watched a very interesting video that has some clips of him back in the 90s talking about his crime bill. And anyway, let me just double check on chat. I don't see any other new questions or comments. And again, not a whole lot more going on federal level, so I'm going to move on. And again, state level, we just kind of talked about it, whatever there is to talk about at state level. The big thing, actually, I want to kind of point out, excuse me, I get a little tickle on my nose, is I just lost the window here. There it is. I think the big thoughts on my mind for state level, what's going on in marijuana right now, is not our legislation. It's not what's going on in the state house with the bills, because nothing's going on. They're back on their home turf now. They're in their home offices, and so our activity right now is to reach out to our home legislators, go visit their offices, see if we can meet with them, and see if where they stand and can we sway them to support medical marijuana in South Carolina. But what I think really is the big news of the day we want to talk about as far as an agenda point here for what's going on in South Carolina state level, is the startup of the next election season. We already have, I believe, 3 announced candidates for governor in South Carolina on the Democratic Party. All 3 of them have some level of favor for marijuana. As you all may know, we had candidate Cunningham on a few weeks ago on our cannabis conversation. And if you look at his plan, it is full adult use recreational, push for that. Little inside information I found out today, our political director, Justin Streckel at National, had a bit of a hand in helping to draft Mr. Cunningham's policies, and kind of round it out for him, make sure he touched all bases, kind of thing. We do know that candidate Mia McLeod, who is a sitting, oh goodness, I forget, is she a senator or representative? I forget. Anyway, she is a sitting legislator in South Carolina, is running for governor. We know that she has co-sponsored the Compassionate Care Act. I believe, I don't have it in front of me anymore. I believe she's also sponsored decriminalization legislation. Not that it's off the progress anywhere here in the state, but we know that at least she's not anti medical and anti decriminalization to this point, as far as we can tell. My understanding, after talking with somebody on her team a couple of weeks ago, is that they are going to be also flushing out their marijuana policy in the coming weeks, and may very similarly to candidate Cunningham do a press release and kind of thing when they release that policy. So we'll see how that goes along. We've kind of offered our resources, if we can, to any candidate who needs information on flushing out their marijuana policy for their or most candidate, any candidate for that matter. Whether it agrees or doesn't agree with their politics, we don't know, but we can at least give you our insight and input and that type of thing. But the other thing I did hear from National is up in Virginia, there is going to be a cannabis festival on the 24th of this month. The cannabis, I forget exactly what they're calling it. I don't want to say it's festival, but gathering. And that I know Joe Cunningham has indicated that he will be attending the event. That's coming up again August 24th. It was too soon for me and too far away. I'm not going to DC, to Virginia at the moment. But there is that, now I'm excited about it because, we do have candidates, and I think as we move forward, we're going to be starting to see other candidates. This year's race is for House members, I believe. I don't know if it's House and Senate, but with it's not everybody. It's certain seats. So as we start to get into that primary season, and I'm starting to figure that will ramp up toward the end of the year, November, December, more so as the legislature starts in January, February, we're going to start seeing those races kick up. I haven't checked in the past week or so, but last I heard, the primary dates haven't been selected yet. Generally, the primary date is early June, and the runoff date, if there's a runoff needed, is later, about 3 weeks after that, in later June. So we're anticipating those same primary dates. So we expect the primary race to really start heating up, March, April, May, before we get to that June primary date. Um, we expect at that time to start having a lot more candidates come on to the cannabis conversation, and may even try and set up a roundtable type discussion sometime. Otherwise, there's not a lot going on state level that I can talk about that's marijuana related. There just isn't. And again, local level, I am, should I say, starting to reach out to my local city council, see how I can get involved with getting to know, first off, who they are, what their positions are on marijuana, and hopefully find a couple of friendly city council members to sponsor a decriminalization ordinance here in Charleston, South Carolina. I really think that my efforts would be better spent in that direction locally than the other option, which is to try and get 15,000 plus voters to sign our petition and try and get it on the ballot, and then try and get the voters out to vote for the same type of ordinance. The way I'm seeing some of our, state level candidates and legislators even leaning towards medical marijuana, and even, there's a number, I think there was there are 4 decrim bills sponsored out there. Yeah, the winds, they are changing in South Carolina as far as cannabis is concerned. Of course, I had that conversation with somebody again the other day, and they swore to me that South Carolina is going to be 50th. And my answer to that is usually that I'm not so sure about that. I think maybe, Puerto Rico will become a state, and then they will legalize marijuana, and South Carolina will legalize 51st. But that's just my cynicism going off there a little bit. But I think local level, besides trying to do the municipal voter initiative and get it on the ballot, depending on your city or town council, it may be possible. Matter of fact, I forget who it was now. I just had a memory of a small South Carolina town mayor who was talking about decriminalizing his town, and I didn't even connect it until now. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. I have to take a look back into that. The best thing to do really that you can do for me, or that you can do for the movement, is to reach out to your legislators and excuse me, tell us what they, tell us what their position is, have them share it with us. If you have any news articles or things like that you can share the links to us, links with us for. I believe the link I'm looking for is vote.normal.org. I'm going to share that with you real quick. And I'm going to share the screen. And this is the place that you can go to find out more about what we know, at least at this point, on your South Carolina legislators. Click the link and you will see, at least again, the ones that we know or have some information on, what we have given them a grade for. I hate to admit, but we have Nancy Mays at a B- at the moment. And I think I've got, her, well, she does support medical. I don't think she's voted on any legislation to date. And again, at our federal level, we do have Jim Clyburn, who is the House Majority Whip. We have a majority there now. What the whip's supposed to do is, rile up the troops, get them to vote for along party lines, that kind of stuff. If you're in Jim Clyburn's district, definitely reach out, let him know that you support cannabis and that you want to see him actively supporting cannabis. I don't think he is signed up onto the Congressional Cannabis Caucus at this point, so I would ask that you request he join the Congressional Cannabis Caucus as well. And Tom Rice in House District 7 also has a B rating. As we get into our state level legislators, a lot of them you'll see we don't have a whole lot of information on. We don't have a pro or a con necessarily in our guide. I've tried to, in the past election cycle, mind you, I'm going back to last October or so, and go through and do some comparisons that I could with some other marijuana related voter guides. I believe Marijuana Policy Project and or ASA, Americans for Safe Access, may have had a guide that I was sort of going out looking at, comparing to, trying to find the pertinent links or any relevant information. And so this is why I asked if you ever happen to be in Harvey Peeler's district, District 14 is Senate, reach out to them, find out if you can what their opinion is, and then if they respond to your emails, forward it on to us, and hopefully we can, or if you have any links to any articles that they've been quoted in, or YouTube videos, an interview type thing. We have some support in the state. You'll usually see a D next to the name though, unfortunately. Yeah, there's Mia McLeod. She's got an A rating here in the state. She's sponsored legislation. She's voted for co-sponsored legislation. Again, a lot of that legislation doesn't get real far when there's a D after it, if it's the initial sponsor. But again, she has co-sponsored the Tom Davis's bill that has definitely bipartisan support across party lines. But then there's Greg Humphrey. He's the senator up in Myrtle Beach who put a block on the Compassionate Care Act this past May. He objected to it, and it kind of put the stop to it, and that's what shut it down. He has a well-deserved F on there. I'll point out here, because many of our followers say, why doesn't Sandy Sen have an F? Unfortunately, she's got a D rating based on our matrix in the background, because I don't think she's actively sponsored any anti-marijuana legislation or made any real specific anti-marijuana moves. So although this is the senator in my district, and I'm sorely disappointed in her performance as when it comes to cannabis and civil rights and civil liberties in general. We can't give them much lower grade than what the matrix allows. But again, here we go. We've got a number of A's in our Senate. Some with R's after them. Look at that, and now we move into our House district, and you'll see the same thing. We've got some A's with A ratings with R's after. South Carolina legislators on both sides of the aisle are starting to support marijuana legislation. So I know I kind of jumped back to state and federal a little bit by going to our voter guide. But the same things apply, that we do not go down to city level or municipal levels in our voter guide. But reach out to your city council if you don't already. See if you can find out who your city council member is. I mean, somebody asked me the other day, who's my city council member? And I went, I didn't even realize that, you know, I have a city council member specifically that I can address. Now I just have to figure out how best to contact them. But I know who my member is now, and I have their contact information. I just have to draft out my letter. So anyway, let me turn off share again. That is our, again, smoke the vote. We want to sort of start thinking about this stuff as we get towards the fall season. I really look at, you know, October, November, although we don't have elections here in South Carolina this November, it will kind of, as that, what would be the election date rolls by, that will be sort of the early era of the next cycle. As we get into the legislature starting again on January 11th, again, we'll start seeing the candidate primaries kind of ramp up from there. So our goal is to, like I say, we've already been in touch with some of our candidates at the governor's level. We'll start reaching out to candidates as we start finding out more and more about who they are and where they are, and try and get them on our cannabis conversation on Wednesday nights. Otherwise, let me take a real quick peek here. We are 10 of 7. I'm sorry to be rambling here. Last but not least, I do want to touch on chapter business a little bit. And I don't have a check sheet in front of me. The only real chapter business that we're trying to focus on, well, a couple things. I'm going to do my normal call out as I often do, looking for someone that might be interested in joining us as a oh boy, that mic looks like it's acting funny over there. Volunteer coordinator. We are starting, we have a small list of volunteers that we are collecting on our volunteer spreadsheet from around the state. And my problem is I am not a volunteer coordinator. I need somebody to help me coordinate activities throughout the state. So anybody that might be interested in investing some of your time, if you've got a specific experience in doing volunteer coordinating with any other nonprofit organizations, that could be beneficial, because otherwise it'd be, you know, the blind leading the deaf kind of thing with me. But reach out to me if you would through our email, normalsouthcarolina@gmail.com, or through our website, normalsc.org. Go to the contact page. Otherwise, the other big thing we are really starting to ramp back up again is our January Cannabis Convocation. It's going to be taking place January 15th in Columbia. I should be, I think we have everything arranged with Segra Park, home of the Columbia Fireflies, to use their banquet hall there. Did I turn off share? Yes. We are in the process right now of confirming a couple of the other nonprofits that will be collaborating with us on it, and we'll be starting to reach out and open up the doors for our other retail vendors. We do have a couple of other folks we are also looking to reach out to. We have one grower and one extractor that we're hoping will come out and also exhibit for us at that event. So anybody that might be interested in more information on the January South Carolina NORML Cannabis Convocation Conference and Trade Show, again, visit our website, normalsc.org or scnormal.org. Go to the contact page and reach out to us through the contact page. Otherwise, we don't have a lot on the agenda for local activities right now. I've been wanting to go ahead and start setting up our booth out in the community, and Yeah, next thing I know, I'm seeing, there's new conversations of, the Delta variant growing. I'm seeing increasing numbers of confirmed COVID cases again. And my health questionable some days at best. So I'm not going to be in too much of a hurry to go to running outdoors, even though I have gotten my vaccine. I'm already hearing people getting boosters, people with the vaccine getting sick as well. So as far as live events, we've kind of put those back on hold. So our big focus is going to be, like I say right now, is our cannabis conference in January. And I'm hoping you all will join us there. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap it up, guys. We're here at 7:55. Before I do wrap it up completely, I'm just going to real quick check. Chat, nothing in chat. Any questions or comments from any of our folks on the call with us tonight? Not seeing any mics kick off, so I think we're pretty good on that. So that is the state of the legislations, federal and statewide at the moment. And we'll talk again about it all next month at our third Tuesday at 7 p.m. So every third Tuesday, 7 p.m. for our monthly meeting. We will also be back on the line tomorrow night with our cannabis conversation every Wednesday night, the South Carolina NORML Cannabis Conversation. We will be talking again about one of our fact sheets. So if you're interested in finding out a little bit more about some of the fact sheets that NORML puts out there, join us and we will be discussing those tomorrow night. Otherwise, that's all I have for this evening. Thank you so much for joining me. Sorry about rambling as much as I think I did. But again, thank you for being here with me and we will talk again soon. Have a good night, y'all.